When you think kindness, what comes to your mind? My imagination floats to gentleness, tenderness, a certain TLC, tender loving care. Hold that thought. This week on the couch, we're going to be chatting about, you guessed it, kindness. Being kind to ourselves and being kind to others. So, back to our reflections on kindness. When last were you on the receiving end of an expression of kindness? How did it make you feel? I never fail to be touched by expressions of kindness. It makes me stop and breathe in and savor the moment. It reminds me that an invisible bond connects me to others, that bond of humanity. Kindness says to me that we value others to show them consideration in the way we address them and the way we behave towards them. Kindness isn't necessarily reserved for being in the right mood or, feeling relaxed. In fact, it's mostly appreciated when people are under a certain strain and constraint. It looks like a soft word said in understanding, an expression of empathy. It's that act of patience and bearing with one another's weaknesses, because we have stopped to consider them and to cut them some slack. They say that love makes the world go round, but I suggest that kindness is the other side of that wheel, since love and kindness share the same language. Some would even say that kindness is the language of love. Keep listening as we train ourselves to both speak the language to ourselves and then to others. Be kind to yourself. Funny how we have to be reminded to be kind to ourselves. Why is this? Is it to do with the wear and tear of life? The hustling so much that we we neglect ourselves? Or could it be that we don't value ourselves enough to show ourselves some TLC? My daughter recently asked me what I would like to do for my birthday. And I said with a cheeky grin,
"Nothing. You take care of yourselves. I know only too well how to take care of myself."
You see, I have a healthy sense of love and self-care. I enjoy my own company and like few things better than to be by myself, reflecting and just letting the thoughts pass through my mind in solitary mode. Throw in a spa, a massage, some good food. I'm not too demanding. Be kind to yourself says to me, pause and take stock of your thoughts, your emotions, your state of being. It says to me, make time to spend quality time with loved ones. This is what life is all about, after all. We don't earn a living, so to speak. Work is that thing that is just interspersed, the intermission between living life. And it's not really reserved for those who can afford it. We don't want to wait till we're in a hospital bed to be reminded to slow down and to soak in those aspects that make life enjoyable. So I work at intervals whilst I get on with living. That is my motto. So, being kind to ourselves ensures that we're refreshed and inspired so that we can, in turn, be kind to others. After all, as the saying goes, you can't give what you don't first have. As we first learn to speak the language of love to ourselves, this ensures that we'll become more fluent in speaking that love language to others. Keep listening. Be kind to others. This ought to go without saying, really. But I find that often we're not aware of how we're lacking in kindness until it becomes habitual. We're usually not conscious of it until we notice that we're snapping at others, our work colleagues, our neighbors, our loved ones. We're impatient with them. We can barely let them finish their sentences, let alone give them space to express the depth of their concerns and emotions. Yet we make time to nag them. We sooner say good morning than we start to reel out a list of to-dos for them. Remember to do that thing you promised. It's as though people around us are a means to an end, rather than the reason we wake up and, exert ourselves to serve them and maybe see a smile, put a smile on their faces. We grumble and complain as though they were a burden to us, rather than loved ones that we delight to serve. It's only when we observe these telltale signs that we realize that we're fraying at the edges or falling apart at the seams and in desperate need of some TLC. I observed someone close to me who had formed the habit of, no matter whom they called and for whatever reason they called that person, they would first pause and ask, how are you? How are you doing? Rather than just getting on with the reason they called or they sought that person out in the first place. So I adopted that mannerism and I'm trying to keep it up. And I find actually it's refreshing for me because it means that I have to pause, breathe, and ask that person, how are you? And actually focus on listening to their response. You see, being kind to others helps us see the world from the right perspective, a place where kindness should be traded rather than hostilities. It makes the world a much brighter, lighter place, and actually it gives value to our very existence. So we live to love, and kindness is at the heart of love's language. Therefore, kindness ought to be as natural as breathing, shouldn't it? I have a grin on my face just thinking about it. My name is Ekene, and this has been my week series on the couch. Thank you for listening. Have a pleasant, wonderful, refreshing weekend. Bye-bye for now.